All right, guys, Bullion Bites back with another video. This one we're going to be talking about the journey to 300 ounces of silver. Additional lessons I learned along the way beyond what I talked about in the first one. If you haven't seen the first one, the journey to 100 ounces, go back, check that one out, and then come back to this video. The first one we talked about, just brief summary, getting the initial kind of discipline, getting the initial mechanics set up financially to start stacking and what that entails. You know, going out and saying, okay, I'm going to put 10 ounces of silver aside. You know, I'm going to put the money aside for that. You know, dip my toes in and what that looks like. Starting small, starting with your 1 ounce sizes. Starting off with simple, low premium items, not jumping into collectible items right off the bat. This is a Provident Metals Zombucks The Saint series. You can see how it looks similar to the Standing Liberty that you see on the Gold Eagles, but it's a little different. She's holding a zombie head in her hand. It's a great series. Wish I had more of those, but only got a couple. You know, the idea getting to 100 ounces is learning that you can do it, that you can set money aside, where you can save money. With stacking to 300 ounces, what you're really learning is every 2 weeks, every pay period, every month, I'm going to set aside from my budget, $50, $100, $200, and I'm going to put that towards silver. I'm going to put that in and pick up my 10 ounce bar every 2 weeks or every month, whatever it is that you decide that you're going to set money aside for, because as you can see, it does add up, and it's something that if you commit to it and you go through the process of learning that financial discipline in those first 100 ounces, then as you see your stack grow and you track it, you'll see that before you know it, boom, you've got 70 ounces out of nowhere, and it's only been a couple of weeks. And then sure enough, you've got another 10 ounces. And then again, another 10 ounces. And then again, 2 weeks goes by, another 10 ounces, and then right there you've got 100 ounces as it is. And it's impressive how quickly, without going into debt. That's like an unwritten rule. Don't go into debt to buy silver, but every little bit counts, every little bit adds up. And if you start doing a side hustle, you start bringing in extra money from doing things like Uber, you can add an extra ounce or two on top of that, and now you're at what is that, 105, 106 ounces before you even realize it. And then boom, another pay period comes around, another bar to the stack. And you can see how quickly it adds up. And if you've got the, I'm going to say, the expendable income to put an extra one on the stack, great. If you're at the point where you can, in your pay period or in your monthly budget, you can throw 2 in there, boom, you're good to go. And it all adds up. And you can diversify a little bit. You can get some with some different designs. It helps kind of make things interesting, break up the stack, give yourself some nice eye candy there to look at. That's part of the reason I will I like to every so often get more collectible pieces like the Perth Lunar Series or Somali Elephant. I don't have too many of these, just a couple. They're nice. Each one has a different design on it. Premiums aren't too crazy. A little bit collectible, but boom, another pay period, another bar on the stack, just like it's any other bill, just like it's gas, electricity, whatever you want it to be. And before you know it, look at that. You're at, what do we have here? Almost, look, we're getting close to 200 ounces here on the table, and it adds up. Now, the difference there, the financial discipline, the financial lesson is, don't go crazy until you have a good base stack set up in front of you. I think most people that stack silver or that are collectors would say that this is what a typical stacker would have here. Primarily some 10 ounce bars, a couple of 1 ounce rounds. You maybe throw a 5 ounce bar or 2 in there for good measure. If, like I've said before, if you can get 2 5 ounces for the same price as a 10 ouncer, shipping, premiums, all that stuff included, it's a good alternative to have. The idea behind that is the smaller your pieces of silver that you have, the more divisible they are, the less sort of whole pieces, whole chunks that you have to sell at once when you go to sell or when you need to sell to get cash for other things. Just something to keep in mind. The way I look at that is your silver is kind of like your dollars in a different way, but imagine if every time you went to go and spend dollars, you couldn't get change. Do you want to go and spend, a 10-ounce bar, something that right now is probably $240, $250, when you only needed $100 to pay for whatever it is that you were doing? Do you want to lose all that extra money? Or, do you want to take your whole stack? Do you want to take, 40 ounces and have to be forced to sell all that off? Do you want to sell off a kilo when you really only needed a 5-ounce bar, when you only needed a couple of Silver Eagles to sell? Or better yet, have some cash in reserves so you can avoid selling your silver. That's something, from the, even before I did the 100-ounce video, I talked about that, about having, your emergency cash on the side so you don't have to, sell your silver. If you can avoid selling it, you're going to be in a good spot. Then you can look into kind of some fun bars if you want to do that. Get things like these Envelopment COVID bars. Got the Uncle Sam. We got the Murder Hornets. We got the Back to Work bar. That's a great one. Or I think these last two are probably my favorite ones. The Essential Workers bar there, and the original COVID-19 bar there. So all of those were minted during the pandemic. And then, I would say after you get a good, base stack established, branching out into, things little by little, things like pandas, maybe something to consider, maybe something to think about. Or if you really want to go into some of the more of the semi-numismatic coins, semi-numismatic markets, that's all stuff that you can do. Or getting into things like the America the Beautiful series. This is the Frederick Douglass version, 2017. When I first got this coin, everyone I showed it to thought that was Bob Ross on there, just because of the afro. If you don't know who that is, look him up. He's the Happy Little Trees guy. This is 300 ounces on the table in front of you, and you can see it doesn't take up that much space, but it is heavy. It's a lot of weight for its size. That's the main market point, or the main selling point for silver. Now, if you have some pushback on that and you say, yeah, that's all great, but I don't have but a couple of bucks each month in my budget. I don't have anything that I can set aside. Well, you can still, I'm going to say, go through the steps. You can still go through the financial discipline of that, and you can get something like gold backs. One gold back is only $4. And if you're telling me that you can't set aside $4, you can't, budget $4, you can't cut out a cup of coffee, or I don't have them here, but you can't, get a couple of silver dimes for, $2.25. I'd say you're fooling yourself, or you're allowing yourself to be fooled in that sense. The real takeaway from all of this is you're, putting your money where your mouth is. And, it's at the end of the day, it's your silver, it's your money, it's your wealth, and you need to do with it what you think is best. I don't think silver is the only asset and gold is the only asset you should be invested in, but I think it's important to have that extra layer to your finances, that extra silver shield, as some people will call it, to kind of protect your personal wealth, protect you from going back into debt. I talked about that in one of my other videos. Avoiding going into debt, having cash reserves on hand are the first steps you should do before going into silver. But once you start going into silver, all of those items still need to be there because they're not only protecting you, but the first thing you want to use is cash, and the last thing you want to do is sell your silver, especially at a loss if you can avoid it. But all of these things exist to avoid you going into debt. Remember, debt is what you want to avoid as much as you can, especially consumer debt. But main takeaway from getting to 300 ounces is getting into those mechanics, getting into those habits of putting a little bit aside every month, build it in your budget so you can just keep adding little by little, and you'll hit 300 ounces in no time. If you stick around to this long, please rate, like, leave a comment behind, subscribe, and I will see you on the next one. Bullion Bites out.